Hi. Thanks for joining me for a few minutes to focus on something greater than ourselves. I had a couple of conversations the other day from two different people, two different places, totally unrelated to each other, but they kind of dovetail for each other in my mind, so I thought I'd share them. The first was when a friend of mine was talking about aging, and he said, "Time ticks differently as we get older." Isn't that great? Time ticks differently as we get older. And I had just said to someone else, totally unrelated to this, we were talking about the elasticity of time. Just this very thing, that it ticks differently when we get older. And I jokingly said, I want to make sure there's a difference between the elasticity of time as we age and the elasticity of our waistbands as we age. But time seems to be perceived differently at different times in our lives, I think. The other person said to me, used the phrase that we need to be experiencing the wisdom of joy. The wisdom of joy. And then they asked me, well, what is my joy? What is your joy right now? As I got to thinking about these things being coupled, this idea of joy, wisdom coming about not, with age, but through joy and not just through hardship that is overcome. And this idea that time ticks differently as we get older. I was reminded of something I preached on very recently, and that was the difference between chronos, which is time that's in a linear sense, like chronology, and kairos, which is God's timing. Kairos, Kairos, for those of you who like to look things up, Greek word. It's about God's timing. And how often we look at life and say, I know what's supposed to happen, I'm just going to push it through, I'm going to get this done in a hurry. And if things don't fall into lockstep in order to make that happen, if they don't fall into place, I've learned, and maybe you have too, that we have to step back because maybe it's not God's timing. Maybe it's my timing, and I'm trying to superimpose that on whatever the project or the event is. I keep trying to put chronos before kairos. And I think that kairos, God's timing, is where we find kind of the joy in living, when we can live into God's timing and not worry about our timing. We not only are happier, but we gain a lot of wisdom. For several years, I worked for the Sisters of St. Joseph of Rochester. They would say I did not work for them, but I worked with them. And they are near and dear to my heart. And they have a series of maxims that they learn. I think there are 100, but I could be wrong. And somewhere in the 80s is this one maxim, which I will paraphrase. I don't pretend to remember the language exactly. But the idea of it is, do not go ahead of grace with an imprudent eagerness, but quietly await its unfolding before you. I'll say it again. Do not go ahead of grace with an imprudent eagerness, but quietly await its unfolding before you. I think that's tied in with kairos. Don't get ahead of grace. Don't be pushing for our own timing of things, because that might not be God's timing. God's timing, well, time ticks differently as we get older. And one of the reasons why I enjoy God so much is because God is outside of time. You know, God is not bound by the linearity of our understanding of time, past, present, future. For God, it's all one. And it all happens at the same time, which is why God can be so transdimensional, if you will. Why the communion of saints can, when we sit at Christ's table, we can be worshiping and receiving communion or Holy Eucharist with people before us and with people after us. It's outside of time. And that's Kairos, God's timing. So, in order for us to experience joy and gain the wisdom of joy in our lives, I think we need to constantly be reminding ourselves of God's timing and not our own. Just a thought for today. I'm Deb Swift. I'm pastor of South Presbyterian Church in Rochester, New York, and I thank you. Thank you for spending this time with me, because together, we can figure things out better when there's more than one of us. So I hope you go off, and if you want to learn more about South Presbyterian Church and our Acts of Faith community, you can visit our website, which is on the end slide. If you want to see more of these prayerful pause with the pastor meditations or our worship services, please visit our YouTube channel, South Church Rochester. That's South Church Rochester on YouTube. And until next time, be safe. Be safe. Practice a little Kairos timing in your life between now and then. Get into the wisdom of joy. Where does your joy lie? And God bless. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.